In this video, I will show you how to convert Excel data into a Google map. It's easier than you might think. So let's take a look at this spreadsheet. We have here a list of NBA basketball teams and where their arenas are located. And in this example, I have the street address, the city, and the state included. But it's not really necessary to have that much detail. You could just list states or countries or zip codes. It doesn't have to include the street address, city, and state. Now, it's important that the data that I want to convert from Excel into a Google map, it's important that that data be all on the same sheet. So in this case, sheet 1, all of the data is there. And I've saved this Excel spreadsheet to my computer. Now that it's saved, I'm just going to open a web browser, in my case, Google Chrome, and I'm going to go to google.com/mymaps. This is a service from Google that enables you to create your own custom Google Maps. But this time, instead of creating the map from scratch, I'm going to import it from my Excel spreadsheet. So I click Create a New Map, and it takes me to this screen where I have an Import button. So I'll click Import, and I have several different options for importing data into my map, but this is the one that's relevant in this video, Excel Spreadsheet. This is the file extension for Excel spreadsheets. So I'll just click Select a file from your device, and I just go to the correct folder where my spreadsheet is saved, and I'll select the spreadsheet just by double-clicking, and now it's importing my Excel spreadsheet into this Google My Map. At this point, I need to choose the columns to position your place marks. So the place marks that will be in this My Map, what do I want them to be placed based on? Is it simply the state? Or do I also want to include the city and also the address? Do I want to be that specific so that it actually gets the street address accurately? Yes, in this case I do. I want all three of these, address, city, and state. But I don't need team name at this point. I'll click Continue. And now what we need to decide is, how do I want my place marks to be titled? When people see my map and they see the little pins for the place marks, what do I want the title of those place marks to be? Do I want it to be the address itself? Probably not, at least in my case. I'll just use team name and then I'll click Finish. So now the place marks have been imported from my Excel spreadsheet, and you can see how they look on the map. These are all of the exact locations of the NBA basketball arenas. Now there's actually quite a bit more that you can do with your imported Google My Map. I could just leave it this way as it is now, but let's look at some of those additional options. For example, the base map, in other words, the map that's underneath the place marks. I could change that base map if I want to. Just clicking on this button here, I can quickly change from the current style to, let's say, a satellite style, terrain, atlas, and there are several other options as well. I kind of like the look of this simple atlas, so I'm going to stick with that. Another change we can make is we could change how these place marks actually look on the map. Right now, they're all blue and they all have the same exact style and look. Let's change that up a bit. So if I go here, I can click on this paint roller and change from a uniform style where each place mark has the same exact style, and I could change it to a sequence of numbers. And it looks like that sequence is basically alphabetical, and it comes from the spreadsheet that I pulled this data from. And I could go to individual styles, and basically at that point I would have to style each one separately, one by one, or I could just try it the easy way, which is to style by data column based on, in this case, team name. So each team that has a different name will get a different style of place mark. Now this doesn't always work 100% of the time, but for the most part it worked. And so you can see with the different team names, almost every team got a different color for their place mark. Now the reason I say it didn't work perfectly is if you go down here to the bottom, it says Other, No Value. So for example, the Phoenix Suns, they're not listed here as having their own style. That's okay. I can adjust that individually. So now that I've clicked on the place mark for Phoenix Suns, I can click here on Style and set the color manually. But you'll notice what that did, it changed it for all of the other no value options. Now, I'm pretty sure the reason for this is because there are more NBA teams than there are color options for the style. And for that reason, all of the others just get the same color. Another adjustment we can make is we can change the icon for the place mark. So here on Memphis Grizzlies, I'm going to click this Style button, and I could change from the typical place mark and change it into an icon that's specific to Memphis Grizzlies. If I go to more icons, there's even more options, including a basketball. So I'll select that, click OK. Now the place mark looks like a basketball. I can also make that change and other changes specific to each place mark. Instead of going here to the left and clicking on the style button, I could just go directly to the place mark in question, click, and that way you can add the icons or change the color. You can even click Edit to change the data that's used for the place mark. I can uncheck Address, click Save, and now the pin location is based only on the city and state. It doesn't seem to make that much difference from this far away on the map. Notice that you can also add images or videos to the place mark, which is kind of a fun idea. Let's look at one other option you have for changing how your map looks. If you click here on the paint roller, you can change the label option. Right now there's no labels, but if I switch it to team names, you can see now the map includes the names of each of these basketball teams. I could switch it to be the address if I want, or the state, or the city. In this case, I think team name makes the most sense. If you want to get a little more advanced with your MyMap, notice that you can come here where it lists the spreadsheet that the data was pulled from, and you can click these three dots and go to Open Data Table. And that shows me the data that was imported from Microsoft Excel. And I can change this data. If I type over the data, it's going to change it in the map as well. If I need to, I can add another row to this spreadsheet. So let's say there's a new NBA basketball team created. I could right-click on one of these numbers and choose Add Row, and then I could add the team information in. Now it's important to know that if I update my spreadsheet that this data was pulled from, if I add the team here and then click Save, that will not automatically update to Google My Maps. That's why it's important that you know how to add data to this table. Now notice this, in the upper left corner, it says Add Layer. So right now, I just have the one layer, the NBA teams list that I got from Excel. But if I wanted to, I could click to add a second layer, and then I could import data, let's say from Canada and their basketball teams. When you're done importing locations or adding layers and changing the way they look in Google My Maps, the next thing you could consider doing is sharing this My Map with other people. So to do that, the first thing I would do is I would name my map, put in a description, click Save, and then I click here on Share, and then I'm going to switch on this option. Anyone with this link can view, and then I'll just click here to copy the link. If I want to make this basically a public map that anyone could search for and find it on the internet, I can do that by clicking this button, and then I'll just click Close. And now, even if I sign out of my account, I should be able to go to that link and see the public My Map that I created. If you're interested in learning more about Google My Maps, I do have a video on that topic. It's a couple of years old, and so some things have changed, but I'm sure it's still helpful. If there's a lot of interest in this video, I may make an updated video on Google My Maps. Thanks for watching. I hope you found this tutorial to be helpful. If you did, please like, follow, and subscribe. And when you do, click the bell so you'll be notified when I post another video. If you'd like to support my channel, consider clicking the Thanks button below the video. Or you could support me on Patreon or by buying channel merch, and you'll find information about those options in the description below the video. Speaking of Patreon, I want to give a quick shout out to my $5 Patreon supporters. Thank you so much for all you do to support my channel, which makes it possible for me to continue making these videos.